What's up, everybody? It's Matt Johnson. We are back with another episode of Real Estate Uncensored. This is the place where you get actionable ideas, insight, and inspiration to turn your real estate business into a life of freedom. We got a great episode today because we are talking about one of my favorite topics, building teams, and specifically how to retain some of your top people, how to give them an incredible opportunity, how to compensate the people that you bring onto your team, and how to take some of those first steps. So whether you are someone that's already leading a team, an indie broker even, or if you're just taking those first steps and thinking about bringing on a buyer's agent or an assistant, you will get a ton of value out of the conversation that we're about to have. Because we got Daniel Beers back with us. We got a bunch of stuff to jump into. Before we do, the Junior Grandmaster is in the co-pilot seat where he so belongs, back in the box, no longer in Australia where I have to deal with his height difference in person. Greg, what's up today?
Oh, you little Oompa Loompa. Dude, that was such a cool trip, man. I mean, that was an awesome trip. And, I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be back on the grind again. Picking up the calls for the EXP people when they're coming onto the team. It seems it's the right fit for them, but also just back in the daily real estate stuff and trying new things, ideas I have with send out cards. So it's a lot of fun. I was watching another guy do calls, and the Seminete group out of Florida. And Phil, he was teaching his team how to do it. And it was interesting to watch another perspective on how to do some scripting. And it's just, I don't know. I just like this business, dude. It's a Monday morning. We have 5 days of epic opportunity to go out and get deals and life hack ourselves. So I don't know. I'm just in a good mood. And I'm glad to be here. Dan's going to make it rain. If you guys haven't watched his other episodes, go back and watch this stuff. I mean, some of the scripting, which I still laugh my ass off about what you do, Dan, is when if your people don't show up at like 8 o'clock in the morning, like more than twice, you just say, I'm so sorry, you're moving on to another career. sorry, you're leaving. I still laugh about that. It's such a good line, man. So I know you're going to make it rain for us today on the team building. So welcome, my friend.
Yeah, man, thank you. I'm glad to be here, and this is my favorite topic. And sometimes it's not the sexiest topic, right? But this is what allows us to create a sustainable business that can navigate different markets, different economies, and it's sure enough to change at some point here, say in the next, maybe 36 months or so. We'll see. And really it allows us to do what I think many of us had thought we were doing when we came into the business. We thought we were building a business. It turned out we just had a job with a ton of hours to it, sometimes a very high-paying job, but a job, not a business. And this is the business conversations for how real estate agents can transition from practitioner to business owner. It's my favorite topic. I'm super happy to be here.
Nice.
Yeah, I love it. And guys, we got Wyatt watching, Paul Franklin, what's up, man, Melissa. So just want to encourage you guys, let us know where you are from so we can keep you in mind for referrals. Dan is here in the greater San Diego area, so keep him and his team in mind. We're going to talk about how he moved his entire team over, which is a top producing team at Keller Williams, over to EXP with 100% retention, and just how you can build your team in such a way so that you retain your best people. So that's one of the parts of the conversation we're going to get into. Dan, I would love to just quick curiosity question, just because Greg mentioned, it's Monday morning, we're all psyched to be here, we're having a great time, but I'm curious, what do you do on the weekend so that you hit Monday morning running?
Weekends, man, it's about family. So weekends for me is just to try and step away from that phone and step away from the computer. Computer's easy, phone's a lot more difficult. But really it's about spending time with family and spending time with friends and just getting to unwind. Saturday, there isn't really anything specific I do for the business, but when it comes to Sunday, it's really just identical, really, Matt, to how I end any day that leads into a work day, which is to look at the calendar and look at every meeting I have scheduled, every appointment, every time block, visualize what tomorrow is going to look like, and really almost do a walkthrough, right? Like, what are the meetings I'm going to have, and based on that, what do I need to be wearing? Silly stuff, right? Like, do I need to shave tomorrow based on how much stubble I have today? Because I only allow a certain amount of it. And really, so how is that going to affect my morning, my timing, so that I am where I need to be on time? And it's just about looking at that calendar, visualizing, the meetings, the appointments, and the opportunities I'm going to have to go in prepared and not just be surprised 30 minutes before when your phone lets you know what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Like, shit, I got a meeting. Oh, man.
A little too granular for you?
Yeah.
No, that's awesome.
No, that was perfect. So that's one of the things I think, like one of my mentors points this out, that a lot of people, even successful people, don't put enough time. Like they would have much better results if they put some quality time into in the morning. I'll look through my calendar. I do the exact same thing. I don't work out of the house quite as much. And so I can get away with a little bit less in terms of figuring out how much stubble I can roll with and whether I need to throw a blazer on over a T-shirt or something. But I think the most important thing, Dan, that you talked about is kind of visually walking through what that next day is going to be like, whether you do it at night or in the morning, because it primes your brain to set the target for the successful outcome that you want. And then as you move through the day, you unconsciously kind of guide your way towards that target. If you don't know what the successful day is, and you really don't have any idea, you're kind of flying by the seat of your pants, and your subconscious doesn't have anything to attach to and move you towards throughout the day like a heat-seeking missile. So that's what I really wanted to bring out for people about that example. And if you guys don't know quite what I'm talking about, just go back and read Psycho-Cybernetics, which is amazing, and you'll
That's
understand
on my
a
shelf.
little bit about what we talk about. All right, is it
That's
really?
on my I haven't actually read it, but that's on my shelf. Should I open it?
Yes.
You should.
Yeah,
Well,
yes.
if you weren't on the show with us right now, I would tell you to get off the show, read it. Yeah, it's that good. It's really one of my top 5 recommended books of all time.
Cool. I'm gonna go back and read that. You know what I find that happens for me when I really visualize the next day and understand what I'm going to be facing is overnight I'll sometimes dream the answer. I'll have that aha moment, or I'll have a great night of sleep, but I'll wake up and there's that. See, when we wake up, it's such a critical moment in our day because your brain is clear. Right now, what time is it right now, right? It's 11:11 on the West Coast. And I've already been through a whole lot, and I'm now moving from this to this to that. And so the reason people meditate is to find white space where they could just have clarity. And that right when you wake up, you have a natural form of that. And so right there, I'm going to often have the answers to very complex questions that I've been facing, or to what I'm going to be facing later that day if I had thought about my day the previous evening. Also, now I'm in the shower. And as silly as this stuff might sound, it makes a difference. I'm in the shower, but I understand that I have a listing appointment coming, or I understand I have a recruiting appointment coming for my team. I understand what I'm going to be facing, and I literally, despite the fact that my wife thinks I look crazy, I'm now doing the presentation. I'm handling the objections. I'm seeing what's coming and anticipating what I'm going to be facing in that money-making moment a few hours from then. And so when I actually go into the presentation, it's not the first time I've taken a shot at it. It's actually the second or third time that I'm now having that conversation. And so I have a much greater probability of being successful in the moment because while it may look like spontaneous response to the person I'm speaking to, it's actually been practiced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, I do a lot of that myself. I will sit there and I'll have a conversation because they always say that there's 4 different listing presentations that you go on. You know, the one that you practice in the car, the one that you actually do, the one that you tell yourself that you did, you know, on your way back in the car, like I should have done this, I was really good on this, and then the 4th one is the one that you tell your broker when they ask you how'd it go, you're like amazing. So, I mean, but I think that if you can actually step up to the bat sooner and have everything laid out and already be thinking of the objections in any type of conversation, it could be a listing presentation, buyer consultation, talking with your spouse over a big matter that you guys are discussing, any of those things to really kind of prime yourself. And I think a lot of us go into everything so cold because we either rely on our past abilities and our past results, but our past results are only, you know, the picture of what we've done then, not what we're going to do in the future. So if you can what if you could do better? What if you could have better responses or be more equipped for answers if you just were to run it through in your brain like you do in the mornings? I mean, you say your wife thinks you're crazy.
Because what you just said, Greg, as far as that third presentation, the one that you actually give afterwards in the car, when you say, oh, here's what I should have done, or here's where I went wrong, or here's what could have been improved, that one you learn so much from. Like, that presentation's always great, right? But some people that one's always a really good one. But some people will give the in-person presentation, the real presentation, and as soon as they walk out, boom, they're on the phone with their spouse, or they're off to having a beer, whatever it is they're doing. They're moving on to the next thing, and they're really missing a key learning opportunity to be able to give feedback to themselves and internalize the wins and the misses that they had in the moment, so that the next presentation later that afternoon or the next day or the next week can be that much better. That one is also huge.
Yeah, there was one I learned. I do that every single time, and I've learned several good things, and I've also been rewarded in several positive ways. People say, like, hey, I'll ask people at the end of the listing presentation, is there anything we should have covered, anything I didn't cover, and, kind of making sure I dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's. And sometimes I'll get very good compliments on the way the presentation went, and they feel very comfortable when we move forward together. Other times, as always, you don't win at everything. You figure out where you screwed the pooch, and you get to learn from it. And so then you stack up all these different learning opportunities, so that you don't fall backwards, you fail forwards when you don't get that listing presentation, when your buyer doesn't work with you or doesn't get the house or whatever. But as Les Brown always says, if you fall down, make sure you land on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up. And so many people just keep staring right at the ground and say, oh, dang it, I didn't get this, I didn't do that, this didn't go right, but they don't take it and learn from it. Which I know for a fact that, like, Dan, for you and your team, you guys, we all screw up, but we also all learn. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things that, when you talk to your team and they have a bad day, what are some of the things that you remind them of when they come to you and say, Dan, I didn't get the listing, what did I do wrong? Or you can smell the bullshit on them when they say it went fine.
There actually is no negative outcome to anything that goes on in our businesses, whether we presented and got it signed, presented, didn't get it signed. There's no negative outcome other than mediocrity. But mediocrity isn't not getting it signed. Mediocrity is not getting it signed, or even getting it signed, and then just being like, okay, next thing, and not taking that as a learning opportunity to figure out why you signed or why you didn't sign. And so as long as we're turning every outcome into a learning opportunity, over time, we're going to sign more than not. Over time, we're going to win more than we're going to fail. We'll keep failing, but we'll also keep turning those into learning opportunities, and that's how you end up gaining it's a compound interest, right? Like, that's how over time it looks like some teams, some producers, some agents out there can't seem to miss, while others constantly do. But it's also why some agents continue to experience their first year of real estate. They've been in real estate for 13 years, but it's 13 years of having their first year over and over and over and over again, versus actually having 13 years of experience. But that insinuates a compounding effort over time to build on every win or every loss. So that's cool stuff.
So, Matt, what are you seeing with, like, Jeff and his team? I mean, he obviously has not lived the same year over and over, and I know you guys are close and you've worked with him on his team. What are some of the things that you've seen with Jeff and with the whole idea of what we just talked about, not living the same year over?
Well, I would say two things. I mean, number one, Jeff is extremely driven and has the same thing that Dan has, which is the constant analysis of everything in his business.
What are you talking about,
I
Jeff
think
Cohn?
A lot of it, Jeff Cohn.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, Dan, you're coming out to Omaha in May to speak at the Team Building Summit, which everybody should check out. So theteambuildingsummit.com, which is part of why we're talking about this. But yeah, I think that, and that's why Greg brought Jeff up, because what you said about having no negative outcome is really good, because that we have to get over the emotional self-esteem part of it when something doesn't go the way we expect it, or when it goes really, really well. Then it feeds the ego, and then that clouds our ability to analyze it correctly too. So we have to step back from both of those things, that going really, really well and going really, really badly, and disconnect and say, Like it just is. It's just feedback. Did it go as well as I wanted to? And what can I learn from it? You can always learn something from it. And Jeff has that same mentality. And so when it comes down to, like, Greg, to answer your question about, like, how do you handle it when somebody from the team is getting discouraged? The way Jeff would handle it is to bring it back to the goals that they have set. Which is like, hey, you said at the beginning of the year that you wanted to do 25 deals because you goal of taking your kids to Disney World in November. Let's get you back on track to doing that. Let's analyze what went wrong or what's going wrong that's keeping you from getting to that goal. So that's one of the things that Jeff and his team are really good at is they know each agent's goal and their why and why they're doing what they're doing. And so they're able to bring that feedback and relate it back to their goals.
That's really good. We're continually reviewing goals. And I think that's something that Matt, you and I were talking about that earlier today when we were doing some recording. And show everybody what you sent yourself for reviewing goals, which on the audio guys. I was going to say, if you're listening to this, you'll be disadvantaged. But this is a send-out card. It's an 8.5 by 11, so it's the biggest card. And I just put my dream house on it. So it overlooks the ocean in La Jolla. So I'd been visualizing myself in a house already, and I just happened upon a picture that was almost perfectly aligned with what was already in my imagination. So I started looking up other pictures about the house, and I'm like, dude, this is exactly what I was already seeing in my imagination. So I downloaded a bunch of the pictures, went to send out cards, and sent myself the picture of my dream home. So I'm going to do that with some of the other elements of my vision. It's helpful just to see that laying around and pick it up whenever I feel like it and refresh and continually put those images in my brain, because that's what sets the goal that my unconscious steers me towards. So I'm going to come across opportunities that I might not have taken advantage of if I don't keep those types of images like in front of my face all the time. I have a Pinterest board that I continuously add to for my dream board, take things off, put new things on, but I consistently put those in front of me. And I was showing Matt the stage that we spoke on in Australia is almost identical to, I'll show you, to this stage that I had in this book since 2014. So I don't know if you guys can see that, obviously, but it's pretty damn close, even to where the camera was mounted. That's the crazy part.
Yeah, well, exactly. Like I can remember Yumi and Brian Casella standing in that exact spot in a conference in that room that looked just like that from where that picture is taken. But Dan, let's bring it back to the team building conversation, because where I think this is really important is that we as leaders have to know like what our personal performance system is, because it's that like understanding how we get our own behavior to change is really the first step to understanding how to lead people and getting them to change their behavior. Like if we don't understand that for ourselves, it's really difficult to then put people underneath us and expect to get them to change their behavior.
Yeah, it's the whole game ultimately really is about behaviors, right? Like building a team is taking, sometimes maybe 3 personalities, but taking sometimes 20, 50, 100 different personalities, and can we all behave in a way that benefits the greater whole, is cohesive, and is in line with the core values of the company. And I think really when you're talking about behavior, that's the first thing that you need to go to. And most agents, what they do, because so many of us, most of us, almost everybody, we get into business accidentally. Right? Unfortunately, we just get into business accidentally. There's a very low barrier to entry. A few hours later, boom, you're licensed. And it's the fact that it's such an amateur industry that so few of us really understand where we're going in terms of for the future. Like very few are going to build a career with the end in mind. And it's that idea that if you really believe you're going to go out and build a big business, even though you're one person right now, or maybe you're 2, 3, 4 people, and you say, but I don't have a big team yet, right now is the moment to actually build out and think about, spend time with the core values of your company. What are they? Because it's those behaviors and those principles, those disciplines that you will then make your hiring decisions on, your firing decisions, and your philosophical decisions in terms of how the business will operate. right? So for us, we know that it's one of our core values is gritty. We are gritty, okay? Mm-hmm. So because of that, we all get in at 8 a.m. We built in this mechanism. We get in at 8 in the morning every day. That's what we do. Now, that's not for everybody. A lot of people, that just doesn't work, and I love that, because if it worked for everybody, then our business would likely not stand for much. If you stand, if you really are for everybody, then you're for nobody. Mm-hmm. And so even something as simple as that 8 a.m. that you mentioned earlier, something that simple, already when we're interviewing people to join the team, so many will just self-select out. Like, wait, what? We have to be in at 8 a.m.? I can't just roll out of bed at 10 and go surfing and then come back? No, I mean, you can. You just can't do it here. And that's okay. Like, we love you for it. Good luck.
Yeah.
And well, that's a whole nother conversation as far as why is that even a weird thing to get in early in the morning, while every other person in corporate America right now is getting in every day early in the morning. In real estate, anyone that gets in the morning is thought to be a real grinder, right? Like, just, wow, look at their work ethic. Like,
right.
They just seem to be working. I mean, I don't know.
They rolled in when everybody else in corporate America rolls in. They're a real grinder.
Yeah, there was a reason that was actually called morning rush hour, because a lot of other human beings are on their way to work at the same time. But building out the core values of your company is something that most of us will put off until we think we have a big enough business. The problem is that if you don't have that, that's the roadmap that tells you where you want to go. What do you want it to look like? What is it supposed to feel like? What is your value system? And so it's really early on that I would encourage you to spend time with that. It sounds like really kind of airy-fairy, kind of just unnecessary stuff when you're just starting to build your business. But I'll tell you what, you get to the point where you can't actually grow any further, at least not in any, or if you are growing, the thing is nasty. I mean, unhealthy business, if you do not have clarity around your core values and what your company is going to stand for.
Yeah, I think culture and clarity, two of the most powerful things. Culture is another huge one. What do you like? You guys are in at 8 a.m. That's just who you guys are. That's built into your culture. Other people are like, dude, you come in whenever you want. That's their culture. Is productivity. Who's going to be the most productive? And you want to be able that you jive with it. Whenever you join a team, or if you're starting a team, be true to your core. Don't be true to what you think you should be doing because someone else tells you it. I mean, that's kind of, because otherwise it's not sustainable for you.
I agree with you. So it's not like 8 a.m. is the only way to build a business, right? Because if that's not you, if that's not something you believe in, if that's not the people you want to be surrounded with, but you do 8 a.m. because you heard 8 a.m. here, it's going to be meaningless to you. It's not even going to last anyway. No. So you can have any kind of business. It could be completely virtual. You don't have to get in at all. But do your core values give you a navigation tool, a compass to understand if you have the right people on board in your business, or if you have somebody that can become cancerous? Here's the coolest thing about building a team. One of the biggest lessons that I've had over the course of last year was it was early in the year. I believe it was January. And it'd been 60, 90 days of putting up with somebody that was clearly out of alignment with our core values. And I point this way because over here behind the camera, through my window, big wall that has our core values clearly outlined, right? Just like a vehicle wrap, we've wrapped our office wall.
Nice.
And it is the center of our office. So we have someone who's clearly out of alignment, but he's an ISA that's killing it. The guy is scheduling 40-plus appointments a month. In fact, in the month of January, he's scheduled 43 held, qualified appointments. Yet, I'm facing this problem. And I actually end up excusing him, right? I end up firing him.
Excusing him.
And I was scared to death of it because I was firing the person who is supplying 43 appointments to my agents on a monthly basis, or at least for that month in January. And he was just, his trajectory was up. Well, when I finally did it, the question the comments from the team was actually, what took so long? Why did you, why did it take you that long to do it? Or thank you for having done that. Or gosh, the place feels so much better and lighter now. Like it's just a happier place to be this morning. If you don't protect those core values, and here's actually a dangerous part of establishing core values, is that then you actually have to protect them, or you're exposed as a hypocrite who doesn't believe in or stand for their own business. So there's also that. But your best people will actually thank you for protecting them.
Interesting.
Yeah, and we're talking about retention. That's a big part of retention right there. I mean, there's a lot that we could get into on pay structures and compensation. We're building the reward system so that it rewards the things that you do want versus the things that you don't. But you're right, Dan. Like all of those things, like you can get all that stuff right, and then if you let somebody in and stay in because their performance trumps all of their core value stuff, and they make everybody else miserable, and they're a cancer to your culture. Yeah, I mean, the top performers are going to look at that and go, this is ridiculous. Like, we need to get this taken care of, and you're clearly not dealing with it, so you obviously don't really believe in your core values.
So when it comes to team building, say you've moving away from that topic, when it comes to team building, we see all of the turnover. Everyone's constantly, it seems to be their team implodes, and they rebuild it, and implodes, and they rebuild it. And the thing that if you're going to go build a team, that I would implore you, that is, you have to figure out what is the unique, what is the value that you're providing to your team members. And it cannot be, here's the kicker, it cannot be leads, and it cannot be splits. Now, you might provide leads, I do, provide a ton of them. You might be providing leads, you likely are. You might be providing whatever the split structure is that you feel is great and favorable and fair for you and for the team. But if a leading factor for anyone to be on your team, like if I went and interviewed someone on your team watching, I said, why are you on John Smith's team? If they say leads or splits, you're dead in the water. You will be rebuilding your team before you know it. That's a beautiful recipe for turnover. See, leads and splits are the two least protectable competitive advantages. Eventually, people just understand how to create leads. Okay, eventually there's someone with a better split. Splits and leads will get you absolutely nowhere. Those are the guys that you see constantly having to rebuild the team. And never can actually have momentum to have the kinds of jumps that my business has been able to experience, right? Going from 40 million to 62 to 102 to 151, 164 this past year. Those kinds of jumps are because you have the same people in place over time, all committed to the same path, to the same mission, and you can't get there with the revolving door, which leads and splits are guaranteed to bring. Have you guys talked to a lot of teams? Does this resonate with you?
Very much so. It's when it comes down to that whole idea of it having something different, it makes me immediately think about my past brokerage before we switched to EXP, and our culture in our Danville office, which was a flagship office for our company. It would buzz. I mean, with energy. Everyone was excited to be there. Everyone was on the same path. Everyone was going the same direction, and we were supporting each other. And it was a beautiful, 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 fun, incredible place to be. But then our new manager came in, and she was like an oil tanker crashing into a reef, spilling all the oil everywhere. Just decimated the office. I mean, I think a morgue is even louder than our office was when I last left it. I mean, no joke. I mean, it was dead silent because the culture was killed. The motivation was killed. And like you said, that one person, could disrupt that. And it's powerful to see. But when you recognize that, you've got to be able to shift. You got to be agile enough to bob and weave. You can't just sit there and be like, well, it'll get better in time. No, it won't. It'll just get worse. And that's why I love you acted out of faith and said, okay, this dude's got to go. Even though he's crushing on the lead gen, you're like, I got to go. And you've had nothing.
Well, today we have someone that's doing a better job, who's a core value fit, and what it in the message that it sent the rest of the team, that we're really building something here that means and stands for a business that really stands for something.
Yeah.
The message it's sent to them, that creates retention. So if it's not going to be leads and not going to be splits, culture is absolutely an element to it. That's important. That's absolutely important.
Let's talk about how the culture and how the core values affect how you create opportunity for your best people to stick around.
Okay.
Because we all know how that, we all know how it goes that, if you're a team leader, you start developing the broker problem, which is you develop people, they turn into top performers, and the top performers promptly turn around and leave. So how do you avoid that? How do you avoid that in your business so you can keep building momentum?
Yeah, so our top agent's been with me now for, I want to say 4 years. He has multiple six-figure years, earning years, where he takes home multiple six figures for 3 of those 4 years. It's always been, it's been 6 figures each year, but multiple 6 figures for 3 of the 4. And the way you do it, or the way that we've built this in, is we have our production standards. And as our agents begin to produce more, we also invest in them more. And so for us, if you sell 0 homes 3 months straight, we simply have one of those conversations, Greg, like, hey, Greg, I heard you resigned. I
heard you resigned.
It still gets me every time.
I love it.
Sucks because I really like you, but
yeah.
It'll be sad to have you go. That's 0 homes in over 3 months straight. That's just an automatic. Yeah. And by the way, I'm talking about after they're out of their 90 days of training. Okay?
Well, yeah.
So that's automatic. Now, I could have had a conversation with Greg after 1 month, 2 months, or any day of the week and said, hey, Greg, it looks like things are shaky. You're not producing. I think we need to make a change. But 3 months straight, no sales, it's an automatic, sorry, I heard you resign. 1 sale a month simply keeps them on the team. 1 sale a month keeps them on the team. By the way, I'm in San Diego County. My team sold 222 houses last year with 5 producing agents, and we have a high price point. Okay, so 1 sale a month, it keeps them on the team. That's profitable to us. And really for our market, that makes them 3 times as productive as the average agent. So 1 a month, you're on a team. What you have access to is our ecosystem, meaning not our leads actually, but you have access to our tools. We have world-class tools. We have a world-class operations team. We have payroll that would, tons of it. Let's just leave it there. I mean, a ton of payroll. We have a dedicated listing manager right over here, our transaction manager, our operations director, our marketing coordinator, our marketing director. We have our ISA team showing agents. So we have infrastructure for you, plus the best CRMs ever known to man. We have the most expensive dialers. We have every possible tool that you could ever want in order to run your business. And by the way, those systems and tools, that builds retention, because it is near impossible to work on our team with that degree of support and then leave the team and go work like a Neanderthal with with a shoebox filing system. and it's hard to do. It's hard for people to go backwards in life, right?
Yeah.
So that's a great retention tool, is just having a world-class operation for them to operate in. But 1 sale a month, they're just on the team. They can do open houses. They can call their SOI using all our tools, using our CRM. They could get serviced by our operations team, and they can prospect using everything that we supply. Now, once you're doing 2 sales a month, 2 to 3, that opens up our ISA department to you, our showing agents, and so now you're having appointments set for you. Our farming leads, our Zillow and internet leads, and our radio leads, and just all of the different things that we spend a ton of money on a monthly basis. Now those leads are made available to you, and those appointments are set for you. For us, leads all come into the ISA department. They don't go to our agents at all, except for during off hours when we have opportunity time so that the phone gets answered. But now you actually have access to all of those leads, all of those new sources of business, okay? We'll call it that. Now, once you start hitting, when you get access to that, you should be able to sell another home every month. So you should be able to go to 4 homes a month, 4 to 5. And when you're at 4 to 5, it's your choice. You get every month you hit at least 4 sales or 5. You get either $1,000 cash, or we can go hire an assistant. Now, we can hire any assistant you want. I don't care if you want to get a $20,000 person or a $100,000 person. Anyone you want, we're going to go hire that person, and we're going to split the cost. Now, you're going to be smart about it. You're not going to hire a $100,000 person if you don't know you're going to hit those numbers every month. And if the math pencils out, right? $100,000 person might not completely pencil.
Right.
But we're going to split the cost, except for any month you don't sell 4 homes, you're going to take on the entire cost. So what happens is guys selling 4 to 5, when they just start getting there, like we have a guy right now that's real close to hiring that assistant. But some months he's hitting 6 sales, some months 4, some months 5, but some months 3. But he's just gotten there, so he's been taking that $1,000, opting for the 1,000 instead of the assistant. But now the more months he's stacking and saying, hey, like I really am this guy, now we're going to bring in the assistant, so we're starting to have that conversation. When we bring that person on, you now have a dedicated assistant or an ISA or a runner, whatever it is you decided you wanted to hire. By the way, we hire them. So they're on Beer Home Team payroll, not on their payroll. They're on our payroll for a reason. That person wants to leave, they can leave. They're not leaving with our tools. They're also not leaving with a team that we've literally built for them that they can take somewhere. So they're our employee. But once they have that dedicated person, they were selling 4 to 5 homes. Now they should be selling 6 to 7 because they have an entire full-time person working for them, or part-time, whatever they decided on. So, and then once they've done that, they're now selling 6 to 7 houses a month. They can opt to get a second person, which I also will pay half of, which should move them to 8 or higher sales on a monthly basis. And once they're there, we just say that they're now in basically my business partner, in that when we open up a new location, when we expand the business, when there's a property I'm going to invest in or flip or do whatever, different aspects of the business or different ways of making money, they very well are going to be asked to partner with me, right? Like they're in like the very tight inner circle. Does that make sense? So we build leverage for them as they grow within our organization. That's how we keep them. That's how we build retention, because for them to leave and go duplicate that, go buy all of our systems, all of our marketing, try to hire all of our world-class people that are processing their transactions and their listings, that's hard to do. That's real hard to do.
I like it.
Yeah, it is. And are you hiring people that have that experience of being out in the cold Neanderthal world of being a solo agent with no support, no systems? Are they coming to you off the street and getting trained up in your system?
So everyone, regardless of who comes in, is going to go through our 90 days of training, right? And there's three milestones after 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days. We actually have a ton of turnover through that. So we'll on average interview about 40 agents a month. We were now scaled. You saw, I mentioned earlier, 5 agents last year producing. That was the failure of last year. We didn't have enough agents, or we could have sold a lot more houses. This year we're completely focused on scaling that. We hired a sales manager near the second half of last year, and now that's off and running. So on a monthly basis, we'll interview about 40 agents, of which we're going to make an offer to maybe 1 to 3. Sometimes 4, but that's rare. Typically about 1 to 3. Now, turnover in our first 90 days, even going through the entire career visioning process that we used to use during our times at Keller Williams when we were the #1 producing team there before we moved our business to EXP, we'll still use an extensive interviewing process just like that. It filters out almost everybody, but we'll still get about a 50% turnover rate within the first 90 days. But the people that could get through the interview system and the people who could get through the 90 days, which are tough, really tough, after those 90 days, we have very little turnover. So that's kind of how it looks for us. Now, the people that we're bringing through, they are, for us, mostly have been agents that were licensed, but were just trying to figure out, they weren't really in production, let's say. They were just trying to find a home. We like finding new agents, and we like finding people out of corporate America, people that are ready to work and that haven't been ruined by this industry. We have one person on our team that I would call a veteran agent before he came on, but he had the right need. He had the right level of desire to work, unlike any way he had ever worked before, because we work hard. But mostly it's newer guys, Matt, for us. But the thing is, though, a new guy that goes through our process, that goes through everything, that all of our training, our 90 days, and that shows up every day and works the way we do. Josh Kim, for example, sold 31 houses last year. It was his first 18 months of selling houses, or being licensed. And for the first 6 months, he was just in the industry. He was somewhere stumbling around. So in those 31 home sales, on average, a San Diego agent will sell 3.7 homes, say almost 4. So he had 9, 8, whatever years of experience in that 1 year by being on our team. So we find that to be the more effective road to getting the right fit for us.
I like how
you guys see
gamified it. Well, I like the fact that you gamified it. You opened up different levels as different levels of success came to the agent. So it wasn't like, okay, agent, hey, welcome to my team. Here's everything I have. Go for it. I mean, they'd probably freak out. They'd be like, there's so much to do. Where do I go? But you make it they have to hit certain benchmarks to get the next level, the next door open. Because if you do X, Y, and Z, dude, congratulations. Now you get leads called for you. Now you get appointments set for you. Now you have an assistant. Now you can be freed up to go do more of what you're doing. And I think a lot of the agents, that's where they screw up, is the fact that they don't understand the value add benefit of having those tiered stair steps. Because a new agent will not know what to do. It's like handing a 3-year-old the keys to a Lamborghini. They have no clue what to do with this thing. But as they get older and more veteran, and they get more deals, and they see what their wants, needs, and desires, and where they need to plug and fill into their business, then they can appreciate the ISA. They can appreciate the assistant. They can appreciate all the different systems you put into place. Most people are just like, I got a CRM, I got an assistant, I'm going to double my business. How? Lock it in for me. And you guys are all in one mindset, going on one path together. And there's consequences for actions, both good and bad. Good, here's your next carrot, here's your next whatever to keep moving forward. Bad, as you would say, I'm sorry to hear that you resigned. It still gets me.
Yeah, but I also love, Dan, that you've got like the highest level, which is like, hey, if you're making multi 6 figures, here's the reason to stick around. Not only do you get the world-class support, the operations, these multiple assistants and ISAs and all this stuff to where you get appointments set for you. But then on top of that, you get to be in kind of the inner circle, which I think is what it really comes down to a couple things. It's the relationship, and then it's the opportunity to kind of level up and get into deals that they would not be privy to otherwise. I mean, unless you hang out with wealthy real estate investor friends like we've been able to do, just because the world. An average agent off the street, you don't know those guys. You don't know the guys that are running, Agent Wealth Network, and the guys that are investing all over the country, and some of the guys that we've been privileged to have on the show or just have relationships with. So you're giving, Dan, something to those agents that they really don't have a way to access any other way, unless they go out and start a podcast, I guess. But and that to me, that's one of the unique things. I mean, that's that type of thing. Who was it? I think it was. Tim Ferriss might have said this. I mean, the books that Tim Ferriss wrote made him a little bit of money. The podcast makes him, maybe a 6 or 7 figure year income in sponsorships. Where he's actually made all of his real money is the investment opportunities that came his way because of the social circle that he got access to because of the books that he wrote and the podcast he started and all that stuff. So you're giving people access
I love
to
what
the
you're
whole
saying.
new world.
Yeah, the other way you retain people is actually to help them just grow as people. So when the value proposition is leads and splits, I don't know how much growth opportunity there is there. When part of the value proposition is that you yourself as a person, as a business person, as a parent, as a spouse, are going to grow, are going to develop. One of my best friends in the world, who I've known for over 10 years, he was a lender. He actually became our sales manager. He was a lender. He was working on his own. He was working from home. No team, no environment, no nothing. He had a team leader in his mortgage company that would supply him with a couple leads a day, and he was just selling, doing some loans and doing well, 6-figure years and doing well. Well, he left that to come here because what he watched was that his personal development stayed somewhat static, at least relative to not just mine, but the people on my team that he had the opportunity of meeting over the years. And now that he's a part of it, he'd tell you that, yeah, the money's great, and I thank you, yeah, cool, and I'm about to purchase a home and all that good stuff, but I am so, like, my life is just different. The way I think is different. The way I see opportunities is different. It's allowed him to develop. And that is really one of the things that will keep people loyal for a very long time. Because it's money is not, we all know this from the different studies, money isn't the number one motivator. Money has to make sense. Money has to make sense. And certainly Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right, has to have to be met. Shelter and food and safety, all that has to be met. And once you get beyond that, human beings are surprisingly deep beings, are creatures. There's just not that many environments, though, for people to discover that part of themselves. And so that is a huge way to create retention in your business.
Love it. Well, and speaking of that, because I know we've got to wrap things up. So, I mean, that's kind of the approach that we're taking as well. It's not just about business training. It's about personal development and leadership, and as far as why people should partner with us. So how do people get in touch with you, Dan, about partnering with you and joining EXP underneath your auspices, or even just joining up if they're in San Diego, like literally joining your team in the facilities that you have?
Two things that you could do. One is if you're in San Diego and you want to learn more about the Beer Home team, obviously then just get a hold of us. I'm going to leave that one up to you. If you can't Google us and find us, there's our first test. As far as EXP is concerned, we have moved our business there. There's actually a team building decision as well, because now instead of me being the only owner of the company, I get to own the company with all my agents. They get rewarded with stock as they literally just do their jobs. And they get to borrow from my influence and the influence of literally 80 million, 90 million, 200 million, 164 million, 75 million, like huge producers that are all part of our up and down line at EXP. Your sponsor genuinely matters. And so if you want to understand the model at a deeper level, there's two things you could do. One is that if you're anywhere in the country other than San Diego, if you're somewhere in the country that's not within driving distance of here, you want to go to fastforwardwebinar.com. Okay, that's fastforwardwebinar.com. If you are in San Diego County, the influx of questions and requests for breakfast and meetings and everything else is overwhelming. So what we're doing is actually this Friday in UTC, we're having a mastermind around this topic. And if you want to join us in person, you go to fastforwardmovement.com. So in San Diego, fastforwardmovement.com. Anywhere else in the country, go to fastforwardwebinar.com, and we'll hook up there.
Love it. Okay. Easy enough. That's awesome. And then Greg, same question for you.
Yeah, guys, as I always say, easiest way to get a hold of us, go to bookmcdaniel.com. Again, it's right there on the screen if you're watching. And if you're listening, bookmcdaniel.com. Book 30 minutes with me. Let's see if our culture, what Matt and I put together, the people we're running with, if this is going to be something that you guys want to be a part of on our team, just go ahead and book 30 minutes with me. We'll get this thing hopping as soon as possible, and we'll kind of go over all the value add that we're going to show you as well. We're going to show you how to make wealth, not just a paycheck. So, hook up with us there, and then personally call Matt on his private cell phone late at night.
I'm going to go ahead and stop you right there, Greg. All right, two things before we finish it out. So number one is that Dan is speaking, as well as me and Greg, at the Team Building Summit. So go to the teambuildingsummit.com and check that out. That is May, I believe it's 8th through the 10th, in the beautiful city of Omaha, Nebraska. And actually in May it will be beautiful, so I say that sarcastically because it's where I'm from and I hate it, but it will actually be really nice.
I forgot you're from there.
Yeah. So we'll all be, Greg and I are speaking. Dan is speaking. A bunch of other people. We just had Mary on the Team Building podcast. Mary's also speaking. Mary Simmons, I believe is her last name. And so we got a bunch of people that are speaking. It's going to be an awesome, awesome time. And then speaking of Jeff Cohn and all of the stuff that he's got going on, check out Livestream, erslivestream.com. That is the twice weekly agent trainings that Jeff does for his top-selling team in Nebraska, and it's open through high-def video and audio to any agent around the country. It's ridiculously low price for $17 a month, so you can check that out. Make sure to check out Dan's previous episodes of the show. We've got guys that are going back and forth with each other in the comments right now, like just complimenting Dan on how good and deep that are looking to build teams long term that are just blown away. Buddy Blake just messaged me and said that this is a fantastic episode. So, Dan, we just want to appreciate you for being here and sharing.
I want to say hi to Buddy, one of my favorite people in this industry. So what's happening, man? I hope I get to see you again soon.
That's right. Well, Buddy should come to the Team Building Summit, for crying out loud. As should everybody who's watching. All right, guys, make sure to subscribe. Audio on Stitcher or iTunes. Go to video, or for video, go to either our website, rarity.uncensored.com, YouTube, either one of those. And Greg, what do you say we put a little bow on this one?
Man, you should put a little bow on this bad boy. We love you guys. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the nice comments. That's always good to hear that we're doing a good job. We're bringing good people on. That there's a value add benefit of your time, because you're never gonna get this hour back. But I'm glad that Dan was able to do a lot of good for all of this, for all of us in this industry. So you know what? I love you. Matt loves you. Dan loves you. And it's one big love fest up in here. Anyways, till the next time, guys. Peace out, ninjas.